Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're returning with our Premier League predictions for Matchday 3, which kicks off on Friday night with Chelsea hosting Luton. Now I'm actually recording this off the back of a very frustrating watch as West Ham have just beaten Chelsea at the London Stadium. Of course, we'd predicted Chelsea to win, and I've gone for a Chelsea win in this one again by 2-0, but it's so difficult to predict with Chelsea at the moment. I think being back at home on Friday night, if we don't win, it would be an absolute calamity. This was one game that I was considering as putting as my joker, but as you will see, we have opted for a slightly different game due to the fact that Chelsea lost today. That kind of swayed my thinking, but I do think they'll win. I've gone for 2-0. Then heading into Saturday's game, the early kickoff is between Bournemouth and Tottenham. Another tricky game for Bournemouth, who just faced Liverpool away at Anfield. Seems like they played okay there, but just didn't quite have enough quality and ended up losing by 3-1. Facing off against Tottenham today, who have had a pretty decent start to the season. Good point away at Brentford and then beat Manchester United on Saturday evening. So I've gone for them to win again, as I was really impressed with them beating Manchester United. Of course, that being at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But I think with Bournemouth's tricky start to the season so far, I do think that Tottenham will run out victorious in that one. First of our 3 o'clock kickoff sees the other side from North London, Arsenal hosting Fulham, who have had a tricky start to the season. Beat Everton away at Goodison Park on the opening day, but got absolutely battered by Brentford in Matchday 2. And I've gone for Arsenal to win pretty convincingly by 3-0. Of course, Arsenal playing on Monday night, which is actually tomorrow as I'm recording this, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on away at Selhurst Park. But Fulham have looked poor this year, so I've gone for Arsenal to win pretty comfortably. Another London derby sees Brentford taking on Crystal Palace at the G-Tech, and in this one I've gone for Thomas Frank's side to win by 2-0. I've actually been impressed with Brentford to start the season off. Thought they might struggle without Ivan Toney, but got a good point against Spurs on the opening day, and then, as I mentioned earlier, battered Fulham away at Craven Cottage. So I've gone for them to win by 2-0. I do think Palace will struggle with creating chances and scoring goals. Should have put more past Sheffield United on the opening day, and Brentford are very, very good at the G-Tech. Next up, we've got a game that's looking like an early relegation 6-pointer. Everton against Wolves. Both took heavy defeats in Matchday 2. I've not seen the Wolves highlights yet, but Everton's defending at Villa Park on Sunday was absolutely horrific. I've gone for a 1-1 draw in this one. Tough one to predict because I was really tempted to go for an Everton 1-0 victory, as that's kind of the Sean Dyche tactic book. But I do think Wolves will pick up a point. I think Gary O'Neill is a good manager, to be fair to him. And from what I've seen, they have been creating some chances. Obviously scored against Brighton, but it's at the back they've really been struggling. But Everton really don't look like scoring many. Calvert-Lewin went off injured, not sure the extent of that just yet. And they didn't look like creating anything at Villa Park. Back at home, so I have gone for them to score, of course, but really tough one to predict. We've gone for a 1-1 draw. Game 6 sees Man United taking on Nottingham Forest at Old Trafford on the back of their defeat to Spurs away from home. We know from last year that Manchester United are miles better at Old Trafford. They were shaky against Wolves on the opening day, but managed to get the job done, and Forest's away form is really, really poor. So I've gone for Manchester United to win it by 2-0, although I'm not really sure where the goals are going to come from because they've not been good in the opening 2 games that I've watched. Their midfield balance looks really off with Bruno, Casemiro and Mount in there, and Rashford just cannot play up front. He's definitely miles better on the wing, so I think Erik ten Hag will look at changing a few things. He won't just sit around and leave them as they are, and I do think back at home they'll get the victory. Game 7 sees in-form Brighton taking on West Ham, who, as I've mentioned, had a brilliant victory against Chelsea in Matchday 2. Brighton have been fantastic to start the season off with back-to-back 4-1 victories. Now in this one, I've gone for them to beat West Ham by 3-1. I do think West Ham will get on the score sheet, as they did carry a bit of a threat against Chelsea, and from set pieces they're going to be a major threat this year. But we know how good Brighton have been playing free-flying attacking football, and I've gone for that to continue against West Ham with a 3-1 victory. Then heading into Sunday, we've got 3 games, starting off with the Claret and Blue derby between Burnley and Aston Villa. Obviously, Burnley only played 1 game so far, as their game against Luton was postponed back at home at Turf Moor, where obviously they got dispatched by Manchester City, which was no surprise. Villa were really impressive against Everton at Villa Park, so I have gone for them to win this one by 2-1. I was very, very close to putting 1-1, but I thought Aston Villa might just have a little bit too much quality for Burnley. I think it might take them a little bit of time to settle in the Premier League, and I think with the experience Villa now have, being in the Premier League for a number of years now after their promotion, I think back in 2019, so I've gone for them to win the first game of Sunday by 2-1. That is followed by 2 pretty big games: Sheffield United against Manchester City. Of course, Sheffield United fell to defeat at the City ground late on against Nottingham Forest, and they have struggled in their opening 2 games so far. It doesn't get any easier for them though, as they take on treble winners Manchester City, and I've gone for a 4-0 thumping in this one. I really don't think Sheffield United are very good, to be honest. I'm sorry, Sheffield United fans, but I looked at their team against City, and although it looks like they did dig in and nearly picked up a point, City are just going to have way too much for them. Obviously, City have had quite a few games already to kick off the campaign, with the UEFA Super Cup taking place in Greece. They played really well against Newcastle, and I thought they should have had more than the 1 goal that they did have. Foden was absolutely brilliant, and if he plays like that again v Sheffield United, he's going to create so many chances. You know Haaland will score at least 1, if not more, so I've gone for a 4-0 victory for the champions. And the final game of the fixture sees Newcastle taking on Liverpool in a big game between 2 of the top sides this year. Newcastle, I think fair play to them. They've recruited well in the summer, but everyone seems to think they are going to be right up at the top of the league. Obviously, I predicted them, I think, to come 6th. Defeated by Manchester City pretty comfortably. They didn't really lay a glove on them, and they are still that step below. Be interesting to see how they get on against Liverpool, who have also started the season off well. In this one, I've actually gone for a 2-2 draw, bit of a goal class, because I think Liverpool still aren't great at the back, conceded against Bournemouth pretty sloppily. For Newcastle, we know what St James's Park can be like when they get the crowd behind them, so I've gone for a bit of a score draw. So I've gone for a bit of a thriller here in the final game of the fixture, and I've left it until the end. Our joker game this week is going to be game number 3, which is Arsenal against Fulham. Mentioned as I went through the fixtures that Fulham have been poor so far this season. Arsenal at home always seems like it's going to be a banker. Was tempted by City, but I honestly don't know how many they're going to put past Sheffield United. So I went for Arsenal being at home. I think they'll win pretty comfortably. So that's our predictions for match day 3. Let's go over to the website and see how we got on in match day 2. So we'll start off with the full table standings, where you can see we're in this kind of top half of mid-table position, currently on 18 points from 18 games, so averaging a point a game, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing. You can see there's a lot of people in this kind of cluster here between kind of 21 to 17 points. There's a big group of people in here, so it's all very tight at the beginning of the year, but I'm just happy to be in the mix. I didn't want to be down at the bottom on kind of 12 or 13 points at this stage. Feels like we've cut the gap a little bit to the top as well. I think we were something like 11 points off the top. We've now cut that to just 8 points, and you can see, as I mentioned, it's all pretty tight. We want to be finishing in the money this year, and we're only 3 points off 4th. So for the fixture, again, similarly to the full league table, it's pretty congested. Most people on between kind of 9 to 6 points. We're performing pretty consistently at the moment, and I'm pretty happy to be in the mix. Here is a full breakdown of the fixture and what everyone had. Not a huge amount of 3-pointers in here, most coming on Friday night between Forest and Sheffield United, which we also had a 2-1 Forest victory. Our joker 6-pointer went out the window inside 3 minutes when Bournemouth took the lead at Anfield, and we've picked up a couple of other 1-pointers along the way. Most people have Arsenal to win tomorrow night, and a couple of jokers in there as well, or just one joker actually. So yeah, we've gone for 2-1. A 3-pointer would be lovely, as there are quite a few differing score lines here. I think next week's a really important one to start picking up some 3 points, as there's actually quite a few favourable fixtures for the top sides. You think Chelsea at home to Luton, Arsenal at home to Fulham, and Manchester City away to Sheffield United. Everyone will have those teams to win, so it's important that we start picking up some 3 points. It's a big 3-pointer weekend next week. But of course, we'll be back after the games have been played next week to go through our predictions for Matchday 4 and check out how we do for Matchday 3 as well. So guys, if you are enjoying, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, let me know what your predictions are for Matchday 3, and I'll catch you in the next video very soon. Peace.